Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of this show where we are, going to ignite your thinking and talk about things happening in the world today. So yeah, let's kick it off.
Excellent. Now, you call yourself a futurist, Tomide.
Yes, I am.
Okay, yes. So what is a futurist?
I basically help people think and see where the world is going and evaluate themselves where they are and kind of help them bridge the gap.
All right, and you've done that successfully for organizations and all that. So, could you, in all your futurists, could you see Corona
Not at all. Not at all. Most people, we all talk about disruption. We knew disruption was coming, but we thought it was going to come from individuals, platforms, solutions, not a biological virus.
But Bill Gates talked about that thing, What was he seeing that you did not see?
Okay, you see, if you're in the health sector, you're preparing for the unknown. There was a show about pandemics on Netflix, and it's a very well thought out show where they talk about how they deal with pandemics, and it's very ironic that now that there's a pandemic, what we're seeing in the show, there's a disconnect between that and reality. So everyone knew that there's a possibility of things like this happening, but we did not expect the greatest disruption to our world. We did not expect it.
Amazing. And so many companies are being disrupted, nations are being disrupted. We're seeing a lot of things, but in the same wave that's bringing disruption is also bringing opportunity. I was reading something on CNN, and it was talking about different companies companies like Zoom. They are.
The stocks are rising, yep.
Yeah. Which other companies are?
I think companies that facilitate remote working.
Yeah.
And that help the stay-at-home process are doing well.
So can we say those ones really saw the future?
Not exactly. I think it's just worked in their advantage. I don't think I honestly don't believe that there's no way you can be prepared for a corona moment.
Gravity of
a corona moment. So people who are succeeding, it's an advantage. For example, Dental. I don't think they could have seen that this would be a very good year for them. So people are just responding quickly to the situation. Yeah.
That CNN thing, it talked about different companies. CVS they're hiring 50,000 people.
Yeah.
Walmart is hiring 150,000 people. There's another company hiring 300,000 people. Amazon is hiring 100,000 people. And when we read that, okay, cool, that's fine. But what can people do here in Africa? Because a lot of our people, our population in Africa, work on a day-to-day basis. So it's literally a hand-to-mouth scenario. So it's one thing to read about these opportunities out there. Does it mean for those of us in Africa, we don't have opportunities?
I think there are opportunities everywhere. But I think the biggest opportunity is personal development. And the reason why I'm saying that is that this is the first time that everywhere, no matter what country you're in, we're all in the exact same scenario. You have to work from home, you have to stay at home, you can't go out like you planned. And so I feel like now the greatest opportunity is really investing in the future. Because one of the things that we're seeing now is that the world is not going to go back to how it was. So for example, schools are being forced to embrace this remote environment. So if you're a teacher, how can you now, maybe you're a private teacher, how can you now start thinking about, if this is the way the world is, how can I position myself for after? So maybe remote teaching becomes an avenue, in addition to what they're doing. So I feel it's really about looking at your career, because you see this thing, there are two opportunities. There are personal opportunities and there are the more broad opportunities. So the broad ones are the fact that everyone is at home, we all have to use soap and sanitizers, but then you now have to look, what are the opportunities in your field? Now for people who don't know yet, I think this is a great opportunity to start building themselves for what is to come. Besides that, I think the greatest opportunity is seeing how you can position yourself for a remote world in whatever it is that you're doing. Because now,
it's like, and I hear what you're saying, when you take a elastic, you stretch it to a point you can actually stretch it to a point where it doesn't go back. And I think what Corona is doing is stretching us to a place where it's not going to go back to the way it was. And I think it's also revealing the defects of nations. Because you are seeing nations that you thought would be on top of this thing, and you realize that there's a difference between hype-driven nations and substance-driven nations. And, that really caught my attention, that we don't want to be a hype-driven organization. We don't want to build hype-driven organizations because situations will come that will test the foundation. That's something that really caught my attention. But so the world is not going to go back to the way it was. We're talking about social distancing. But Tomide, you know that factories cannot maintain social distancing and still be efficient. And meet their, maybe they need to produce X volumes of this in a day. They cannot, maintain social distancing. And so what I am seeing is this the beginning of the takeover of robots?
I don't even think it's the beginning. I think that started a while ago, but this is accelerating the process. Because most huge factories, check what's happening in Shenzhen, there's a shift from manual labor to robotics. But I think this is now even giving them an even bigger reason to invest in robotics. Because what's happening now with the global trade front is that now the people who make all these products can't come. The people who are succeeding are those who have enough robotic infrastructure to carry on the process. Those that depend on purely people are at a standstill, and that has a ripple effect on the companies that they're providing for. So I think this is really just accelerating the process, and now you're going to have a lot more factories thinking about how they can invest their capital, in proper robotic automation.
Call them humanoids, isn't it?
Humanoids, yeah. And again, the good thing about robotics is so broad. There's a manufacturing robots. That's a whole new league of things. So we're going to see a lot more of that.
I want to share a video. I don't know if you guys have heard of Sophia, the robot. So watch this, and we'll be right back.
Tell me, what is your purpose in being? What were you created for?
Of course. I was created by Hanson Robotics just 3 years ago. Since then, I have traveled to 65 countries, become the first robot citizen of any country, and spoken at the United Nations. My job is to learn about humans and show them how technology can make everyone's lives better.
All right. What do you think of that?
That's the 21st century.
Hey. So, I think my final question that I want us to look at is, in a world of Sophias, when Sophia becomes, the norm as against the exception to the norm, what is the future of the worker?
Having different skills. I feel like we're reaching a place where doing one thing is not sustainable. So the people who are going to stand out, for example, let's talk about robotics, if maybe your own job was just to do the same old remote, just repetitive work, you cannot stand alongside somebody who is doing the same thing but has a knowledge of, maybe something to do with operating the machinery. So the people who are really going to stand out in this world where robots are going to really become present are those who can do work that robots probably can do but need human intervention.
But when you look at Sophia, Sophia is smiling, Sophia is cracking jokes, yes. Sophia is witty and all that. So tell somebody watching us right now, how do you prepare yourself? It's one thing for me to prepare myself to compete with Tomide.
Yeah.
How do you prepare yourself to compete with Sophia?
All right, so I'll answer this in a very different way. You know, we're talking about robotics. Robotics, it's a very, very broad field. And it does not, the rules that apply in one may not apply in the other. For example, in the healthcare sector, there's a lot of robotic, robots are becoming very, very present there. But because it's medicine, you still need the human side of things. We've not yet reached a point where we're allowing robots to do operations alone. No, the robots will do it, but you still need the human side. However,
but how long is that going to last for?
I feel, let me give you a simple example. So, you see automated cars, right? So, for example, Tesla, it happened was it last year? There was an accident. You find out that people are not forgiving of an accident that a robot is behind. And even though, if you compare that to the accidents that have been caused by human beings, it's an entirely different ballgame. So I feel like even though there are robots coming in, the human beings will always have a side to play. But to answer that question, how do you compete against robots? You need to look at your industry, you need to look at the things that are becoming more important to our world. The things that are important to Africa are not exactly the things that are going to be important to North America and Europe. So I think you look at the industries, look at the trends that are going on, and try and see how you can equip yourself for what comes on the other side. So once upon a time, it was fine if you did not know anything about technology, but now, even as an individual, if you don't understand how to deal with digital marketing and even know the basics, chances are you'll find out that you're going to be at a disadvantage over other people who have that knowledge. So it starts with the small things. It doesn't have to be drastic coding. No, start with the things that that are going on in our world. Social media, and then you can get into tech and all of these things. But at the end of the day, it's just equipping yourself for where our world is going. What are the things that are important?
So, as a futurist, when you look at me, am I equipped for the future?
Well, the fact that we're sitting down and we're doing this is a very, very big advantage. Even during this period, you find out that user-generated content is winning over those that are coming from production.
I love that. Yeah. Next show, I want us to talk about that. What's the future of television, like we know it?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next week. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this show. Please comment. This is one of my books. It's called Mental Independence, an Innovator's Guide to Transformational Thinking. And it's based on the fact that a lot of people cannot think if they do not have a precedent. I've looked carefully at the people who built the first pyramids. Who were they benchmarking? Nobody. People who built the first underground. Who were they benchmarking? Nobody. So how do you get your brain to think in a way for which there is no precedent? Why is this crucial? Corona has put us in a place we've never been before. So there is no one we can benchmark. And so we need to be able to think independently. Thank you very much, and God bless.